Hello, good day everyone. Welcome to English Grade 5. For English Grade 5, this is a video tutorial or video lesson about English Grade 5 Quarter 1. This is for week 1, days 1 to 5. This is the revised K to 12 curriculum for Grade 5. The new ones. So for week 1, our lesson is mainly about the elements of a story or elements of a narrative. Objectives: you have to identify the elements of a story such as character, setting, plot, conflict using story grammar. 2. Identify the purpose and main idea of a story and sequence or arrange in order the events in the story. Recognizing story elements. Now, please study, look at the picture, then there will be questions after that. If you are familiar with the characters in this story, the title of this story, and maybe if you could retell some parts of the story or summarize the story. You have there a picture about Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, Rapunzel, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. These are well-loved fairy tale characters and stories. Are you familiar with these pictures, class? Of course, I think most of us are familiar with this because we all started with stories like this. Who are the characters in the pictures? Some of you might say, of course, we have Cinderella, Belle, Aurora. No? Okay. Beauty, Cinderella, Snow White. Now, can you give us a simple retell in one of the stories from the picture that you know? You can just choose one of those stories. And here are some. Short retelling or short background rather of the story. About Cinderella. Cinderella is a kind-hearted, by the way, for just a trivia, that's from the name Cinder and Ella, no? Because she used to be a slave. She was treated like a slave who worked in the cinder somewhere in the kitchen part. Cinderella is a kind-hearted young woman who is mistreated by her stepmother and stepsisters. With the help of her fairy godmother, she attends a royal ball where she captures the heart of the prince. Despite obstacles, including losing her glass slipper, Cinderella's goodness prevails, and she finds her happily ever after. Now let's talk about Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast tells the story of Belle, a smart and compassionate girl who finds herself imprisoned in the castle of a fearsome beast. As Belle gets to know the Beast, she discovers his kindness and learns to see beyond his appearance. Their unlikely friendship blossoms into love, breaking a curse that had transformed the Beast and his servants. Now let's talk about Rapunzel, a quick background about Rapunzel. Rapunzel is a young girl with long magical hair who has been trapped in a tower by an evil witch since she was a baby. With the help of a brave young man named Flynn Rider, Rapunzel escapes her tower and discovers the world outside for the first time. Along the way, she learns about friendship, love, and the importance of following her dreams. Now let's have Snow White. Snow White is a beautiful princess who is forced to flee into the forest to escape her jealous stepmother, the evil queen. There she befriends seven dwarfs to protect her and help her stay safe. Despite the queen's attempts to harm her with a poisoned apple, Snow White ultimately finds true love and happiness with a prince. Now let's have Sleeping Beauty. Also known as Princess Aurora, is cursed by an evil fairy to fall into a deep sleep on her 16th birthday after pricking her finger on a spindle. Despite the efforts of the good fairies to protect her, the curse comes true. However, true love's kiss from a brave prince awakens Aurora from her slumber, meaning sleep, deep sleep, breaking the curse and bringing joy to the kingdom. Now, the main characters in the story became a heroine of their own. Those main characters like Cinderella, Belle, Beauty, Aurora. The main characters in the story became a heroine, a female hero of their own because of their strength, courage, and determination to solve their problems, which created peace and justice in their own kingdoms. Now, ask yourself, have you been a hero, a male hero, then or a heroine in your own way? Maybe you were able to help somebody or someone. Now, in what way? Could you tell that? Okay, let's have this. Let's try if you remember or how much you know about this. Match the concepts in column A. These are the words. The concepts in column A are the parts or the elements of a story. And identify the word and read the descriptions in column B. Column B, these are the descriptions or definitions of these elements. Identify the word or phrase being described. Write the letter of the correct answer to the blank provided. In columns A, character. In column 2, setting. 3, plot. 4, conflict. 5, theme. Column B, A, the central message or lesson that the author wants readers to take away from the story. B, the struggle or problem that drives the plot of a story. C, the time and place in which a story takes place. D, the sequence of events that make up a story. And E, a person, animal, or creature in a story. Okay, now let's check. Okay, character. What is a character? The character is actually any person, animal, or creature in a story. That's the letter E. Number 2, setting. The setting is actually the place and time. It tells where and when the story happens. That's the letter C. Number 3, plot. The plot is the sequence of events that make up a story. Letter D. Number 4, conflict. The conflict is the struggle or problem that drives the plot of a story. That's letter B. And lastly, number 5, theme. The theme is the moral or the lesson, the central message or lesson that the author wants readers to take away from the story. That's letter A. It's okay if you don't know much about this yet. That's just a pre-test. Okay, let's have the elements of a short story or elements of a narrative. A short story is made up story, meaning it's product of an imagination, made up story that is not as long as a whole book, like a novel. Short stories are usually between 5 and 60 pages or more depending on the formatting, so you can read them in one sitting. It doesn't take you like 2 to 3 days, 1 week to finish reading that entire story. They often focus on just one thing that happens, and they usually have only one or two characters. It consists of different elements generally as characters, plot, conflict, setting, and theme, and we can even add the point of view. Character. Let's talk about the character. The character refers to the people, usually, or maybe animals or creatures in a story, or even just things or any stuff. Animals. we have what we call Aesop. Aesop is the father of fables. Fables, what are fables? Fables are stories with animals usually as characters, but at the end it teaches a moral or a lesson. The characters are the individuals who drive the action of the story and with whom readers identify with. Characters have different personalities, traits, and roles within the story or narrative. They can be protagonists. Protagonists are the good ones, the main characters, the main hero. Antagonists. Antagonists, by the way, protagonists from the prefix pro, it means for or good. Then antagonists from the prefix anta or anti, meaning it's the counterpart, against, opposite, opposing characters. The villains in the story, the big bad wolf, the wicked stepmother, the wicked witch, or maybe other supporting characters who help move the story along. Depending on how you see it, a character can be classified as either round or flat, dynamic or static, a protagonist or antagonist. For a short story, well-rounded and dynamic characters will be your strength. When you say round, that's it's either it keeps changing. Flat, they're kind of boring. Then dynamic, of course it changes. Then there's a character development. Static, it's mostly like flat. The easiest way to write interesting characters is to make sure that they have a flaw or maybe a bad side. Always keep in mind that in any story, perfect characters fall flat. Like every superhero, right? They have to be a weakness or an Achilles heel. Setting, let's talk about the setting. Setting actually, it tells you the place and time, the where and when of the story. Setting encompasses the time and place in which a story unfolds. It includes details about the environment, geography, historical period, and cultural context that provide the backdrop or image for the or picture for the events of the narrative. It's important, settings are important for you to be able to imagine, to picture out, to figure out the story. The setting helps to establish the mood or atmosphere, like I told you, of the story and can influence the actions and experiences of the characters. Okay, let's have that again. Match the words on the left to the correct definitions on the right. Write the correct letter on the line. We have the word in the column at the left. Then you have definition, character, setting, plot, conflict, theme. Definition: A, the central message or idea in a story. B, the people, animals, or creatures in a story. C, the time and place where a story happens. D, the series of events that make up a story. Or E, a problem or struggle between opposing forces. Okay, so let's check this. Character, these are the people, animals, or creatures in a story. That's letter B. 2, setting, the setting is the time and place where a story happens. So that's letter C. 3, plot, the plot again is letter D, the series of events that make up a story. Then 4, conflict, the conflict is the problem or the struggle between opposing forces versus letter E. Then 5, the theme. The theme is a central message or idea in a story. That's letter A. Now let's have this another test. Write T for true or F for false next to each statement. Number 1, short stories are always exactly 5 pages long. That's F for false. It doesn't have to be 5 pages. Short stories like the fables of Aesop are just 1 paragraph. Most of those. 2, a short story usually focuses on just one event or situation. That's T for true. Correct. 3, characters in a story never have flaws. That's F for false. Characters should have flaws. 4, the setting can affect how characters behave in a story. That's T for true. 5, a protagonist is usually the main character in a story. That's T for true. The protagonist is the main hero. This is for your journal before we proceed to day 2. Okay, English 5, Quarter 1, Week 1, Day 2. Continuation about the elements of a story. Another 1 or 2 elements. This usually talks about the serizal. There's supposed to be a puzzle for you to assemble. Then you have to identify who that person is. The answer is Jose Perizal, and you can usually see him where in the plaza or in the coin, in books, in posters, in movies, right? He is our national hero. Now, from the activity, do you think the whole picture will be complete if one piece of the puzzle is missing? That's a no-no. Now, let's talk about the plot. Just like that puzzle, a story is not complete without the plot. Now, if one part of the plot, one important, even not so important detail of a story is missing, you would miss the whole story. Part of it would be also missing or incomplete. The plot refers to the sequence of events that make up the storyline of a narrative or story. It includes the exposition. The exposition is the introduction or the beginning, the start of the story of characters and setting. It introduces the characters and setting, then followed up by rising action, where it's the events leading to the main conflict, then climax, so that's the highest point of tension or turning point, the most important, the most exciting part, thrilling part, then falling action, events following the climax, and finally the resolution, outcome or conclusion, or in some books they call it denouement, D-E-N-O-U-E-M-E-N-T, denouement. The plot drives the story forward or moving and keeps readers engaged as they follow the character's journey. They're going to ask themselves whether he or she would be successful with his or her journey in overcoming his or her challenge. Writers use the plot to map out their story before beginning their writing process. For fiction writing, this serves as a creative outline. The plot is an outline. There has to be direction in your story. So an understanding of the plot is crucial or important to craft, to write a compelling narrative and make it impactful. The sequence of events in a plot is tied to the central conflict in a story. The plot develops as the protagonist struggles with their given problem, finds a solution, and eventually accepts the results. Now, there has been 6 succinct stages of a plot. These are the 5 basic are the exposition, then rising action, climax, falling action, and the resolution. But here there are 6. Let's start with the exposition number 1. It is an introduction of the characters, setting, and conflict, providing all the necessary background information. That's usually in a fairy tale or in most of those stories. The once upon a time in a faraway land, that's part of the exposition. 2. Inciting incident. Now this is something new. Inciting incident happens after the introduction or exposition and before the rising action. Inciting incident. The incident or circumstances, the events that lead the main character to conflict and begins the plot. The reason for the conflict. Or maybe just giving the motivation. Number 3, rising action. The conflict develops and takes on newer, more complicated incidents leading to the climax. Now here, in between rising action and the inciting incident, that's where the villains, the antagonists are also introduced, as well as with the conflicts. Now the climax, number 4, it's at the tip, at the peak. The conflict reaches a peak, which then leads to a change in the course of events, giving the reader a new understanding of the story, either through an event or an insight. It's the most exciting part. You, the reader, the reader wouldn't want to miss that part. Then 5, falling action. The conflict gets resolved or answered and the action slows down. Then 6, finally, the resolution or conclusion or denouement or the ending. The conflict ends, leaving the reader fulfilled. Okay, we don't have to do this. Okay, use the words below to complete the sentences. Exposition, these are your choices. Exposition, resolution, climax, inciting incident, rising action, and falling action. The blank introduces the characters, setting, and background. That's the exposition. Number 2, the blank is the moment when something happens to trigger the plot. It causes the conflict. That's the inciting incident. Then 3, during the blank, the conflict builds through a series of events. That's the rising action. 4, the blank is the most intense part of the story or the turning point of the story. That's the climax. 5, the blank shows how the conflict begins to settle. This is now the falling action. And 6, in the blank, the conflict is completely resolved and the story ends. This is now your resolution. Okay, we don't have to do this. It's just a story and you are told to label those parts. Okay, let's have day 3. Still, this is about recognizing the story elements. Let's review a little. You're going to match each plot stage, the 6 plot elements, to its correct description. Write the correct letter next to the number. Number 1 on the stages: exposition, insight; 2, inciting incident; 3, rising action; 4, climax; 5, falling action; 6, resolution. Description: A, the story's most intense moment or turning point; B, the final outcome that leaves the readers with closure. We are now having a review. C, the problem grows and complications arise. D, introduces the setting, characters, and basic situation. This is on day 3. E, the main character is introduced to the central conflict. And F, the story starts winding down as the conflict heads toward resolution. Now let's check. Let's answer together. Exposition. What is exposition? The exposition is the introduction, the beginning part. Where is that? It's the letter D, introduces the setting, characters, and basic situation. Letter D. Inside, number 2, inciting incident. That's the problem grows and complications arise. Okay, no, that's in letter E. Inciting incident, the reason, motivation for the conflict. That's letter E. The main character is introduced to the central conflict. Then 3, rising action. Rising action, that's now the letter C. The problem grows or conflict grows and complications arise. That's letter C, rising action. For climax, the climax is the story's most intense moment or turning point, letter A. 5, falling action, the falling action, that's now where the story starts winding down or falling as the conflict heads toward resolution, letter F. And finally, number 6, resolution. Resolution is the final outcome that leaves the reader with closure, ending, outcome, final, letter B. Think about a time in your life when you face a challenge, problem, struggle, conflict. It could be a small personal struggle or a bigger conflict. You have to ask yourself, what was the problem? How did you feel? How did I feel? What helped me get through it? What did I learn? How did I grow from that problem? Okay, we have here the word phrase. Our next topic actually now is about conflict and the kinds of conflict. Word phrase and then the meaning. You may want to copy. Conflict. It's the main problem or struggle or challenge in a story that drives the plot and tension. Internal conflict, a struggle that happens inside a character's mind or heart. Like example is fear, guilt, decisions, having a hard time deciding. External conflict, a struggle between a character and an outside force, like another person or nature. So we have two major kinds of conflict, internal and external. Then we have person versus person, a type of external conflict where two characters oppose or fight against each other. Then person versus self, it is an internal conflict where a character battles with their own emotions or decisions. Next, person versus society, a conflict between a character and the laws, beliefs, or expectations of a group or community. Then person versus nature, it's a conflict between a character and a natural force, like maybe a storm, an animal, or a disease. Then we can even add the new one, person versus supernatural, like the main character or our hero would fight against um, aliens, zombies, like those, or even time. Okay, conflict is the central struggle or problem that propels, moves forward the plot forward and creates tension in the story. It can be internal, a character's inside struggle, or external, a conflict between characters or with an outside force. Common types of conflict include person versus self, person versus society, and person versus nature. Let's add the other one, person versus supernatural. Resolving the conflict is often essential or very important to the development of characters and the resolution of the story. Now, here's a story entitled Andres' Lantern. It was the night before Independence Day. 12-year-old Emilio wandered through. What do you mean by wandered through? Just walked around, visited his grandmother's attic, walked about, roamed around his grandmother's attic in Cavite, searching for decorations. He stumbled upon an old wooden box carved with the initials AB. Inside was a small, rusted lantern. Curious, he lit it with a match. A warm glow filled the room, and suddenly he found himself standing in a forest camp, surrounded by men in red shirts and headbands. "Who are you?" a man asked. He looked strong, determined, and familiar. "I am Andres Bonifacio," the man said, "and we need someone to deliver a message to General Aguinaldo." Emilio was speechless, but Bonifacio placed the lantern in his hands and said, "This light will guide you. Hurry!" Through woods and rivers Emilio ran, chased by enemies, hiding in the shadows. The lantern never dimmed. When he reached the camp, he handed the note to a soldier. A flash of light, and Emilio was back in the attic, holding the same lantern. His grandmother entered and smiled. That lantern once belonged to our great hero, Andres Bonifacio. Emilio said nothing, but every year after that, he carried it in the parade with pride. Label each event with one of the plot elements: exposition, inciting, instead we are now reviewing about the plot. Rising action, climax; falling action, resolution. Emilio opens the wooden box and lights the lantern. That's 1. 2. Emilio returns to the attic and his grandmother explains the lantern's history. 3. Emilio is introduced and we learn he is in his grandmother's attic on the eve of independence. 4. Emilio agrees to deliver Bonifacio's message and begins his journey. 5. Emilio successfully delivers the message to the soldier. And 6. Emilio meets Andres Bonifacio and is asked to help. Now, who is the national hero featured in this story? The one with the initial AB. It's Andres Bonifacio. What did the lantern symbolize in Emilio's journey? It symbolizes? What could that symbolize? What was the main conflict Emilio faced? How did he overcome it? He was looking for a decoration. Or how does the plot show Emilio's growth or change by the end of the story? Now let's have day 4, quarter 1, English 5, quarter 1, week 1, day 4. Now let's have a review about conflict. Now let's have, after reviewing about conflicts, let's have themes. The themes are what are themes? A little review. Themes are a theme is a central message. What is the big idea? What is the story about? What does it teach us? What's the moral? What's the lesson of the story? Here are some common literary themes. Love. The story could be about love, about friendship, courage, forgiveness, justice, hope, perseverance, identity, and or betrayal. And there are many more. The theme is the underlying message, a lesson, or moral that the author conveys through the story. It reflects the deeper meaning or purpose behind the events and characters' experiences. Themes can explore universal, general concepts such as love, friendship, courage, justice, or betrayal. They provide insight into human nature and the world around us, prompting readers to reflect on their own lives and values. So the theme actually mirrors, it will relate to the experiences of the reader. Themes may be explicit or implicit and can vary based on interpretation. When you say explicit, that's direct. It's really written there. Or implicit, it's you, the reader, who is going to think about what could be the theme. In fables, usually in fables of Aesop, the theme or the moral is usually written by the end of the story. Now let's read this short story. Elo the Hero, written by Rocky James Guevara Sarasua. There is a small barangay situated between the rolling hills of Quirino province in region to Cagayan Valley, where an intuitive and courageous young boy named Ilo lived. Ilo was in grade 5, just like you, and he had always dreamt of becoming a hero like Captain Marvel, Elastic Man, Superman, and Spider-Man, which he has seen in many TV shows and films. After a half-day class due to extreme heat while playing near a babbling river just near their house, Elo heard cries for help. Rushing towards the sound, he discovered that a kalding, or goat, had fallen into the Karayan, or river, and was struggling to stay afloat. Elo jumped into action. He remembered his tatay Ronnie teaching him about swimming in the river, and he carefully paddled into the water. Despite the water currents, Elo managed to reach the goat's neck and embraced it up in his arms. He saw the mother goat and its siblings just across the river, seemingly crying for help, while looking into the baby goat that was drowning. Siblings means brothers and sisters. But just as he turned to swim back to shore, he realized that the currents had grown even stronger, and he was being pulled away from safety. He became quite nervous due to strong water currents, but Elo continued his heroic act by paddling near the river bank. Determined enough to save the little goat, Elo struggled against the water current, moving his way back to the safety of the river bank. It was a difficult experience for Elo, but finally, with one last spurt of effort, he reached the shallow waters and pulled himself and the baby goat to safety. His kabarangayans, or villagers, who had gathered upon hearing the commotion or trouble, went to help as Elo was emerging from the water, dripping wet but triumphant, victorious. They admired his bravery and quick thinking, and Elo felt a warm glow of pride in his chest. After saving the little goat from drowning, Elo was viewed by his kabarangayans as little child hero of their small village. Even his friends look up to him for his bravery. He has clearly shown that even a child could perform acts of bravery and kindness, and his story inspired others to be courageous in the face of challenges. And as for the goat, it became Elo's faithful companion or friend, a constant reminder of the day when a grade 5 boy became a real hero of his own way. Now, what is the story all about? It was all about Elo. What is the theme? This question is actually asking you about the theme, the message. It's about bravery. It's about courage. It's about heroism. Two, who is the main character of the story? It's Elo. How did you describe the main character based on his portrayal in the story? He was grade 5. He knows how to swim. He wants to be a hero someday. He was brave. He was a quick thinker also, meaning smart. 3. Where does the main character live? In Quirino province. How do you describe their place? It's swampy, it's flooding, it has river. What did the main character do to save? What did the main character of the story save? Okay, what did the main character of the story save? The goat. If you're the main character, Elo, would you also do the same? Why or why not? Yes, of course, given the opportunity. Everybody wants to be a hero. 6. What is the main idea or main lesson you learned from the story? The main idea or main lesson, it's about bravery, courage, heroism. Do you know someone who is as heroic as the main character? It could be it could be you, it could be somebody from your family, it could be a a person that you know from your barangay, from your community, from our country. Who is that person and how did he or she become heroic? You can tell that. That could be your assignment. How can you become a hero or heroine of your own? By doing small acts of kindness every day. Now, here's a story map. The events of the story, Elo the hero, is presented below but in jumbled way. This has to do with the plot. Your task is to arrange the events accordingly. So, there. Elo emerges from the riverbank. Elo's kabarangayans or neighbors, villagers look up to him as a little hero. While playing, Elo heard cries near the river. Elo just went home after a half-day class in school. Elo remembered his father's teaching about swimming in the river. Elo saw a little goat drowning and went to it. Elo reached the little goat and embraced him while swimming. So you have to arrange that. Sequencing events. So what happened first? First, Elo just went home after a half-day class in school. Then, where was that? Where he heard, while playing, Elo heard cries near the river. That's 2. Then, Elo saw a little goat drowning and went to it. Then, Elo remembered his father's teaching about swimming in the river. That one. 4. Elo, then, Elo reached the little goat and embraced him while swimming. That's the 5th. Then, Elo emerges from the river bank. And finally, Elo's kabarangayans look up to him as a little hero. Okay, we have here our elements of a short story. Based on a short story, Elo, the hero, fill out the graphic organizer below. That could also be your assignment. Take time to do that. Then finally, we have the 5th day, day 5, English 5, quarter 1, week 1, day 5. It's still about elements of a story. What is the theme in the story? The theme of a story is, we are now reviewing, it's the central message, the big idea, the moral, the lesson of the story. Why is it important for a story to have a theme or message? The theme or message of a story will let you relate or connect to the reader, as it also gives lesson. Now, instructions: arrange the pool of words, set of words, to the columns where they belong. Is that word part of a character? Is it under setting? Is it under theme? Or is it under conflict? So we have there house, garden, Carlo, bravery, love and friendship, Anna, Jonathan, school, honesty, man versus self, supermarket, man versus man, sadness, John, road, man versus nature, man versus society. So let's have that. So we answer. Okay, we have under characters. I'm going to read all the words under characters. Characters, these are the names. Okay, we have Anna, Carlo, Jonathan, John. There are 4. Then under setting, the place and time, we have house, garden, supermarket, school, road. There are 5. Under theme, the lessons, the values, we have love and friendship, bravery, honesty, sadness. That's it. There are four. And under conflict, yung the man versus or the person versus. So we have man versus self, man versus society, and man versus nature. There are four. Okay, we have another story here to read. The River's Secret. What could be the secret of the river? Lila lived in a quiet village by a river that shimmered like glass. Every morning, she fetched water and listened to the whispers of the current. Her grandmother once told her, "The river keeps her stories." One day, the river's water turned cloudy, and fish floated lifelessly to the surface. The village panicked. The chief blamed the nearby factory, but no one dared confront it. Leela, determined to save the river, gathered water samples and marched to the factory. She showed the owner the proof and told him how the river fed their crops, their animals, and their history. The owner, ashamed, promised to fix the pollution and build a better waste system. Weeks later, the river ran clear again. Lila stood on the bank, proud. The river whispered once more, this time with gratitude. Who are the main characters in the story? It's Lila and the grandmother. 2. Where and when does the story take place? By the river. One time. 3. What problem or struggle does the character face? It's when the river turned muddy, cloudy, and fishes were dead, dying because of water pollution. 4. Summarize the main events in 3 to 4 sentences. You can do that on your own. And 5. What message or lesson does the story teach? It's about, I guess it's still about bravery, the courage to speak out. Choose a theme like friendship, honesty, bravery, and write a short story, 5 to 6 sentences, that includes all 5 story elements, like character setting, conflict, plot, and theme. You can do that on your own or maybe by group, by teams. How does the conflict in a story help readers understand the characters better? Why do all stories need characters, a setting, and a plot? What happens if one element is missing? Okay, just like that puzzle with the result that you formed. When one piece of the puzzle is missing, the picture, the portrait, wouldn't be complete. Provide the letter of the correct answer. This is now our test. 1. What is the setting of the story? Is it A, a bustling city, B, a small barangay in Quirino province, C, an island paradise, D, a magical forest? It's B, a small barangay in Quirino province. This is about the story about Elo. In number 2, in what grade level does Elo belong? He is in grade 5, letter C. Number 3, what did Elo dream of becoming? That's letter D, a hero like Captain Marvel and Elastic Man. 4, what did Elo hear while playing near the river? Letter B, cries for help. 5, what had fallen into the river? C, a goat. 6, what did Elo remember that helped him in the river? Letter D, his tatay Ronnie teaching him how to swim. 7. What was Elo's main challenge while rescuing the goat? It's a strong water currents, letter A. 8. How did Elo feel after saving the goat? C. Proud and triumphant. 9. What did Elo's kabarangayans react to his bravery? They admired and praised him, letter C. 10. What did the villagers think of Elo after the incident? He was a little hero of their village, letter C. 11. What did Elo's friends think of him after the incident? They admired him for his bravery, letter C. Number 12, what did Elo gain from the experience? That's letter B, a sense of pride and accomplishment. 13, what does the story teach others? Letter B, even children as young as grade 5 can perform acts of bravery. 14, what was the goal to Elo after the incident? It was a reminder of the day he became a hero, letter B. 15. Which element of the story is evident or is shown in the resolution of Elo's story? Resolution at the ending. A. Character development. B. Climax. C. Setting. D. Theme. That is letter D. Theme. Thank you, everyone.